accept your questions as well.
Context for I'm going to answer your questions and everything as you like now, but later I will also reserve some time so we can walk the museum together. I am, as your teacher correctly said, I work here and I am the director of education, meaning I lead the team of pedagogues. I am sort of responsible, I guess you could say, for everything that has to do with the history of the Nobel Peace Prize. So I hope I will be able to answer your questions in a good way. If not, bear with me. And I will be able to answer questions also when we are walking through the museum. Yeah.
Then let's start.
First of all, we as the students of Kültür College and Kültür 2000 College, thank you for accepting us here. We'd like to tell you a little bit about our school. Kültür College, being one of Turkey's oldest and most deeply rooted schools, has been educating their students on the subjects of art, science, innovation, and culture since 1960. Being a global schools member, our school engages students in plenty of innovative projects and expresses this through the slogan of Kültür students are global citizens. In addition to this, every year our school excitedly follows the Nobel Prize nominees and winners. We analyze the study in every field, the winning study in every field, and educate our students on the subjects. Experts in the field also come and further educate our students on the subjects. Excluding the years of the pandemic, our school has been organizing Nobel Week since 2017, and this is comprised of visiting Oslo and Stockholm, visiting museums, and attending Stockholm University classes of the winners, and watching the Nobel Prize award ceremony. As the students of Kültür College, we would like to ask you a question. So, in your role as the educated coordinator, what is your role in the museum and what are your duties concerning Nobel?
So, first of all, great to see this sort of enthusiasm for Nobel in your school. I really appreciate it. And it sounds like we have a sort of the same kind of approach to Nobel. We are all kind of big Nobel fans there. So my job is, as I said previously, I lead the department of pedagogues. And the pedagogues are in charge of making education material. So it could mean school visits. When a student group comes to us, I would say something like 500 or 600 student groups come every year to the center, and then they will meet one of the pedagogues, usually not me. And the pedagogues are in charge of making material that is, it should be relevant in terms of curriculum, so the Norwegian school curriculum, but it should also be active, interactive and exciting. It should be more of a conversation and not like a lecture. My job is in a way to take care of the global history in this role and to ensure that the department is running and meeting its goals. We have to have ambitious goals. We have an important message, and that's my job as well to take care of that.
Because it's important, I think it's the Nobel Prizes or the winners change the world as well.
Yes, indeed.
All the time. And we want to, our aim too, same as well, we want to our students know how to change the world with Nobel Prizes or the science or
exactly.
peace.
And that is really, we also have this idea that the Nobel Prize has a certain power. The Nobel Peace Prize has a power to change the world, either in a big scale or in a very, very small and very intimate or personal scale. So that is sort of our approach to it. We believe that it has this power to change not only sort of like geopolitics, but also the personal encounters between people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then, who wants to ask the second question? Yeah, Kuzey.
What kind of education do you have?
Thank you. Good question.
I mean, what do you have to learn to do your job?
That is a big question, in a way. My training is as a historian. So I have originally I was a historian of, I guess you could say modern history, and as well as some political science. But in order to do my job, I guess you should maybe ask my boss what she thought was convincing, but I had some experience with the museum before. And before I was the leader of the National Museum of Travel and Tourism in Norway. So I had some experience running a museum already. And the way I got into that museum was my field of research was precisely what this museum was working with. I am originally a historian of travel and tourism in Norway and Scandinavia in the 1880s. So that very, very, very particular, but in a way historians learn much more than their research field. They learn how to process information. In a way, that is my sort of like academic background, but I also have substantial administrative experience, which was not trained in university. It was, you know, through work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm really curious about your position on Nobel Museum. As we can see your title, Educational Coordinator. Could you explain your duty on Nobel Peace Museum?
Actually, we already
In a way.
learned, yeah.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
But if there's any unclarity, I will be happy to of course expand. But I think my job in a way, I am one of a team of several directors in the board of directors here on the museum. So we have the museum has one part, it's reserved for education, like audience, visitors, and the universities and schools also. We talk a lot with teachers, not only with students. And then we have exhibitions. So the people who create exhibitions, that is a different department. There is marketing and communication, that is a different department. And we all meet in the board of leaders at the museum, and I'm one of those leaders.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Another question? Do you have another question, guys?
Why Nobel Peace Prize sent in Oslo instead of Stockholm like the other Nobel Prizes?
Maybe it's according to history as well.
That is
Yeah,
a big
yeah.
question, and one there is a short answer and there is a long answer to your question. So why Oslo for the Nobel Peace Prize and not all the others? And we don't know, because we actually know what we know about the Nobel world. We know it from Alfred Nobel's testament, what he wrote when he was about to die, and in that he doesn't give us an explanation. But we are interested in history, and we can discuss and make up some ideas, some theories. And to understand the Nobel Peace Prize location, I think it's useful to understand the Nobel history, the life and death of the man Alfred Nobel. So you obviously know about Alfred Nobel. So there are several prizes, and you can sort of see why he chose those prizes when he decided to do what he did. So you have medicine, or physiology. That makes sense because he was concerned about health. He was himself unhealthy child, not the best childhood. You have literature, because Alfred Nobel was an avid reader. He was a literature, I guess you could say he was a learned man. He read a lot, and he wrote as well, both poetry and he wrote even a theater play. So literature prize makes sense. And then you have physics and chemistry. It is obvious because he was himself an inventor, chemical engineer, industrialist. So that makes sense. And then you have the Peace Prize. And it doesn't really make sense to kind of obviously know what is the reason. But Alfred Nobel had sort of a crush on, like he had a very big interest, we think, in a peace activist from Austria. Her name was Bertha von Suttner, and she was a very big influence, we think, on Alfred Nobel. So Bertha von Suttner, she was one of the leading figures of the peace movement. That is one possibility. It could be that her influence, they were speaking, they were talking, they were speaking together, they wrote letters, and from those letters we know that he said, "Convince me and I will do something great for the peace movement." So that is one possibility. There's also a factor which is, Alfred Nobel was not born in a country which was called Sweden. It was United Kingdom of Sweden and Norway. So for his entire life, Alfred Nobel was born and he died in a country which was consisting of both Norway and Sweden, meaning there is, maybe he wanted to share it. It's maybe a simplistic idea, but actually Sweden has a history which is quite powerful. There is a lot of military victories in Swedish history, and Norway is a little brother in this union, and that might also be a reason. So Oslo, at the time was not considered such an maybe like important player geopolitically. Might have had something to do with him saying, okay, maybe the Norwegians can do it. And there's also, I think, fair to say that the Norwegian and the Swedish parliament, so in Oslo and Stockholm, the Norwegian parliament was more explicitly committed to the arbitration. So when governments are fighting, they can meet in a separate entity, like an organization, and they can say, okay, so we are fighting about this region, what should we do about it? And that was not really, that was controversial, right, at this time. So Norway was more maybe progressive in the peace movement as well. Yeah. There are probably some more good reasons.
Yeah.
I'm blanking out. I will tell you more if I can remember them.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Another question?
Oh, this is not a question, but I know something about why the Peace Prize is given in Oslo, not in Stockholm. As I know, when Denmark occupied Sweden, they made a massacre in Stockholm, which is called Bloody Stockholm Night, as I know. I might be wrong though. And the Norwegians helped Swedish people during that time so that they could recover from the massacre. And that's why Nobel Peace Prize is given in Oslo, not in Stockholm. Is this another possibility too?
I'm having a hard time giving you a short reply. I do not know exactly what situation you are referring to, but what I know is that Norway and Sweden and Denmark have for years in its history been fighting. That has been the regular occurrence, and one of the ways you can imagine the start of Sweden as a country is after they are breaking out of the union between them and Denmark and Norway. But that is a long time before Alfred Nobel. So maybe I'm not understanding your question precisely, but I think there is at least an argument to be made that Alfred Nobel had an interest in Norway, maybe out of, maybe he had something like, something of love for the country as well. It might have well been. And we know actually he was a big fan of Norwegian literature. So that is maybe, you know, there is always something you can find to like about the neighbor, maybe. I don't know.
Thank you so much. Any
Thank you.
question, guys? Any question from yeah?
Can you explain the process of Nobel Peace Prize?
Do you have an idea, Nobel Peace Prize, how to they give?
Yes, I mean, but do you think historically? Or you mean...
Processes.
Okay, so the process
Given
each year.
If it's possible,
It's possible.
we're really happy to listen to the historical part.
No,
also.
yeah.
Okay.
I will do my best. So, in order to get the Nobel Prize, you have to be nominated first. And the nomination, it happens through a system which basically means a certain group of people can nominate. And those criteria, I can find them to you if you want to get them exactly, but it's people who have won the Peace Prize before. It's politicians of a certain level. It's academics of a certain profession or a certain field. And they can be directors of peace institutes. So each year there is, I think there was something like 350 people last year who nominated for this year's Peace Prize. But there is a lot of secrecy, right? So the Peace Prize is very, very secret. When all the nominations go in, I don't know, we don't know anything what happens, because the committee works totally within their own institute. And the institute basically has staff, and the staff of the institute, like researchers and people who have a lot of knowledge about, you know, all the regions of the world, all the historical fields that are relevant, they make a short list. They research every suggestion, and the suggestion is then discussed in meetings of the committee. And the committee, it's decided by the Norwegian Parliament. And the Norwegian Parliament, basically what we call the Storting, they elect the group who are the Nobel Committee. And they have a mission, I guess you could say, to go from 300 to 1, or perhaps 2 or 3. you can share the Peace Prize, as you know. And when the prize is awarded, you then get a few things. So you get the prize, the money, and now it is 11 million Swedish kroners. And you get a diploma, so you get like this fancy, a very, very nice calligraphy stating you won the Peace Prize, and it's decorated by an artist. And you also get a medal, and the medal is the most famous. It's the coin, right? It's the big golden.
It's heavy as well.
It's heavy, yeah.
Last year it is in my hands.
Really?
Yeah, I was taste.
Oh, really?
That taste, I touch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. So it's almost 200 grams of gold. But the gold value, I don't know what it's now. It's like $1,800 maybe per ounce. I know exactly, but it is.
It's too much.
It's a lot. But if you sell it, you can get much more than this gold value because it's totally unique. So there was actually one who sold his Nobel Peace Prize medal. That was Dmitry Muratov, who was editor in the Russian newspaper Novaya Gazeta. And do anyone here know what he sold it for? Do you know the sum? For $100 million. So much more than the gold prize. Way more. And he donated it all for charity. So it's sort of incredible to think of. But you get this medal. You get this gold medal, and it says on the edge your name, or you can identify each medal. It has sort of inscribed on the edge, so it's absolutely one for you. And after that, when ceremony is over in Oslo City Hall across the street, you have basically the world's ears, and you cannot measure the value or the scope of that. But when you get the Peace Prize, everyone listens to you. That is sort of the amazing thing. You get a platform, and from there, your life is changed in ways I don't think any of us can understand unless you become laureates, of course. From there, it's really hard to say. You become part of history, and that is also part of the prize, I guess you could say. Yeah. Hope that was like short enough.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any question? Is there any question?